This has Islander fans very concerned, as Anthony Duclair has finally made a statement after his leave of absence last season, and his words were not on their own particularly concerning. In fact, reading his quote, they were actually positive. The issue is that at this point, I don't believe that any Islander fan confidently believes that Anthony Duclair will bounce back this season. If you believe that is the case, let me know in the comments. Maybe I am not speaking for the entire fan base, but just based on the comments I have seen this offseason and just the vibe of the fan base in general on Twitter, Instagram, all platforms, it does not. There's no confidence that this player is going to bounce back. And looking at what he did last season, there really is no reason for you to be confident. Now, I have hope that Anthony Duclair will bounce back. The best case scenario for the Islanders is he bounces back. Whether they decide to keep him long term or him bouncing back to some degree allows them to move on from him to bring in younger players, the fact just remains, I can't see it happening. And again, I can be wrong. In fact, I was very wrong about this signing when it first happened. If this channel was around when the Islanders signed Anthony Duclair, I would have been raving about it. At the time, I thought it was a steal. Now, we only started making Islanders content at the end of last season, which is why it is so insane that we already have so many subscribers. We are on our way to 2,000, so appreciate all the support. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more Islanders content just like this. This contract with Duclair, this whole situation, it aged like milk incredibly quickly. That is the saying, but it's hard to put into words how quickly this completely flipped. And I hope I'm wrong. I really hope that Anthony Duclair can prove me wrong and have a bounce back season. Because again, it is the best case for the Islanders. We talked in yesterday's video about Ilya Sorokin and how Ilya Sorokin, if he has a Vezina caliber season, that is one of the major ifs around the Islanders that they kind of need to make the playoffs. And that's, as I said in the video, it's one that while I don't quite expect it, it's one that I would not be surprised at all if it happened. Duclair bouncing back is going to be another key for this team if they are going to be competitive this season. Unless somebody else that we're not talking about right now steps up and takes his place as a top 6 player, top 9 player who can produce, unlike with Sorokin, I don't know if I see it happen. Still, it's good to hear from Duclair after all this time. Again, I wish this player the best. I'm not rooting against him in any way. I just don't expect it. He said on a podcast recently, the Islanders right now are my team. I love them. I love playing for them. I love the fans. I'm looking forward to a great season, and I'm looking forward to bouncing back. Again, I really hope he does bounce back. If there is anything to take away from this quote, again, this is a pretty media-trained basic quote. It's pretty much what you always get from NHL players. The one positive is it seems like the relationship with the organization has not been damaged. Now, Patrick Waugh earlier this offseason said that he plans on meeting with Duclair at his home or near his home and really just having a conversation after what happened last season. He felt like that was not the type of conversation he wanted to have over the phone. I'm assuming at this point this conversation has been had and they're on good terms to move forward. I don't think there was any bad blood between Patrick Waugh and Anthony Duclair after that quote last season. If you take a trip back to memory lane, Patrick Waugh had said he was god awful. He had a bad game. That's why I didn't play him a lot. And then he added, and he's lucky to be in the lineup. Sorry if I lose it on him right now, but that's how I feel. And to be fair to Patrick Waugh, while perhaps those are not the best words to voice to the media, there really is no argument to be made that Anthony Duclair was not awful last year. Stefan Rosner from this article in the Hockey News said things did not work out. That is perhaps the understatement of the century, with didn't work out doing a ton of legwork. This was abysmal for the Islanders. This relationship in the first season could not have gone worse. Remember, when Duclair was signed, the plan was for him to play on the top line with Mathew Barzal and Bo Horvat and potentially put up 55 or so points, really help them have a 3-line attack. And looking at this season, and I know Barzal was injured, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about as things that can potentially go better for Duclair this season. And then, of course, he did get injured at the beginning of the year. So after those first 4 games, we really didn't get to see a fully healthy Duclair. And to give him credit, he did look good in those first 4 games. However, talking about what I expected from Duclair at the beginning of the season, if you played a full season, I was expecting 55 or so points, especially considering he was finally to be getting top line minutes consistently compared to other teams, where he's been a very effective scorer. At one point, scoring 31 goals for the Florida Panthers in 74 games. And keep in mind, in the Florida Panthers, at times, he had to fight for his time in the lineup. I figured on the Islanders, knowing that he was brought in to be on that top line, it was going to work really well. Instead, he came out and put up 7 goals, 4 assists for 11 points in 44 games, on top of missing half the season. The fact he only put up 11 points is really mind-boggling to me. If you think about it, over the full course of a season, if he played all 82 games, that's on pace for under 22 points. And considering that the Islanders are paying him $3.5 million, so far, this contract has aged like milk. Now, like I said, there is still something, I don't want to say hope, because I don't expect it to work that much better. However, there are some things that can work in the Islanders and Duclair's favor, because again, it's best for both parties for Duclair to play well next season. It does not benefit the Islanders at all if he's not capable of playing in the NHL lineup consistently. That's just another dead contract, and they already have Pierre Engvall. That's not ideal. The best case scenario is that he figures it out to some degree, even if he isn't the first line. I think at this point, expecting Duclair to become that first line player he was brought in to do, not going to happen. However, considering that he took a bit of a discount at the time to sign with the Islanders because he thought it would be best for his long-term future, he really wanted a bit more term on that contract rather than signing somewhere for 1 or 2 years, a little more money AAV-wise. You can accept if Duclair can be a solid third-line player for $3.5 million, which is what he's making. That isn't all that terrible. It's not beautiful, but you can live with it, especially with the Islanders now in the next few seasons going to get the next 3 seasons while Duclair is under contract. They're going to be getting a lot of help from entry-level contracts, which is going to mitigate the damage that this contract does, especially once Victor Eklund, Cole Yzerman make their way into the lineup. That's going to mitigate the value of the contract a bit. And if he can put up okay numbers, say 35 or so points on a third line in a full season, playing with players like Pajot and Shabanov, I guess that would be the best case scenario I'm hoping for, realistically, especially considering what he did last season. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to Anthony Duclair bouncing back is he is 29 years old, so while that groin injury he suffered from last season is no injury to scoff at, he is young enough where I don't think it's an immediate concern where he's too old to bounce back. He's young enough where a bounce back is possible. It's just, personally, I don't see it as something that is likely going to happen. I think the biggest thing that's really not working in Duclair's favor at this point is the fact the Islanders brought in Jonathan Drouin, a player who's going to be playing the role that he was initially brought in to do, on a way better term too, only having 2 years. So if Drouin doesn't work out, they're similar players in the sense where they've suffered a lot from injuries at points, but they've also been very productive. The Drouin contract definitely is better. In hindsight, I was probably wrong to be so excited about, definitely wrong, to be so excited about this Duclair contract from Lou Lamoriello. I really thought that Anthony Duclair was going to be the missing piece that helped the Islanders beat the Carolina Hurricanes. Sounds like a clown take now to think about it in hindsight. But that's kind of my thoughts when it comes to Anthony Duclair. And then the other thing that really concerns me about this player is him being a left wing and taking that spot on the lineup. I feel like there are other players who can benefit from this position more. One in particular, just looking at this depth chart, is Maxim Siplikov. This is a player who I've talked about in the video where the Islanders signed him. I think Siplikov was a way bigger signing than people are giving him credit for. I think he's a way better player than people are giving him credit for. He actually had more points last season, even though at many points he was playing on the fourth line. Ends up putting around 35 points compared to Duclair's 11. I do have some concern that players like Siplikov are pushed down the lineup simply because they can play a fourth line role, while a player like Anthony Duclair can't. Duclair is really only valuable when he is using his speed, getting up in the play, and really playing top 6 minutes. As he falls down the lineup, he does not provide a lot of defensive value, which really doesn't make him ideal for a third line, especially the way the Islanders' third line is constructed. And then in terms of fourth line, he's really not doing anything physical, which makes this contract more concerning for me. But I'd love to know your thoughts about it in the comments below. Do you think I'm being too harsh? Do you think Anthony Duclair can bounce back next season? If so, let me know in the comments what you think his stat line is going to look like next season. I'd love to know your thoughts. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, Patrick Nilan. Catch you on the next episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go, Islanders.